Let's jump right into this explainer on ECDIS, the digital command center that completely revolutionized modern maritime navigation. If you've been following along, you already know how individual maritime sensors work, right? Well, today, we're looking at where all of that critical data finally comes together to guide a massive vessel safely across the ocean. Just think about this for a second. For roughly 500 years, every single ship traversing the globe navigated using essentially the exact same basic tools: a simple paper chart, a pencil, and a pair of parallel rulers. It was a completely manual, entirely analog process that relied 100% on the continuous, unbroken attention of the officer on watch. But incredibly, within just about 2 decades, that entire 500-year-old manual method was legally replaced by a digital system that changed absolutely everything. And look, this wasn't just some optional tech upgrade for convenience. It actually became a strict legal requirement under international maritime conventions for most large vessels. So, the crucial piece to understand here is ECDIS, which stands for Electronic Chart Display and Information System. This is the true heart of the modern integrated bridge. It's a highly regulated computer-based navigation system that fully complies with the International Maritime Organization's rules to serve as the primary alternative to traditional paper charts. Now, ECDS is way more than just a digital map. It's a centralized hub. It pulls in your real-time GNSS position so you know exactly where you are, your gyrocompass headings so you know which way you're pointing, your AIS targets to identify nearby vessels, and your radar echoes to spot physical objects. It takes all 4 of those distinct, highly complex data streams and layers them perfectly onto one single screen. And when you see this data cleanly integrated, it makes total sense. Complex data from different sensors is layered together seamlessly, giving officers one unified operational picture. Rather than running over to cross-reference a radar screen in one corner, checking a GPS readout in another, and leaning over a paper map on a desk, absolutely everything converges right in front of the navigator. So here's a quick check for you to test your understanding. Is ECDIS just a passive digital map? Like, is it basically just a PDF viewer for nautical charts? Or is it actively watching your every move? Just think about the fundamental limitation of a physical piece of paper. It can't talk back to you, and it definitely can't warn you if you're about to make a fatal mistake. The answer is that it's a live, self-checking safety co-pilot. It knows exactly where your ship is going and exactly what dangers lie ahead. It runs these automated background algorithms to alarm you before you make a mistake, not after. It constantly monitors for cross-track errors and depth violations, making absolutely sure your planned track and your actual track don't intersect with any charted hazards. To make this a bit more accessible, think of paper charts like a passive, folded roadmap you'd keep shoved in your glove box. ECDS, on the other hand, is like a modern car GPS, equipped with live traffic, hazard alerts, and automated safety routing. One simply shows you the terrain. The other is actively engaged in helping you navigate it safely. For example, let's say you plan a route just 200 meters from a charted wreck. ECDIS is going to flag that proximity automatically during the planning phase, well before the ship is anywhere near the danger. On a paper chart, catching that requires an officer actively scanning and cross-referencing tiny little symbols. ECDIS mathematically guarantees the check is made before the anchor is even weighed. Okay, let's move to a legal detail that trips up a lot of new officers. And it's a huge deal during port state control inspections. If your system just shows a scanned image of a paper chart, are you legally compliant with SOLAS regulations as your primary means of navigation? Absolutely not. Legal compliance strictly requires official electronic navigational charts, or ENCs. Generic raster scans simply do not make the cut for primary navigation. Why? Because an ENC is a smart, vector-based database where the computer actually understands what a depth contour is. A scan raster chart is just a flat image, meaning the system can't automatically trigger those critical safety alarms based on depth. But here is the critical warning you have to keep in mind. ECDIS is only as good as its data. Failing to update your charts with the latest notices to mariners can silently create a really dangerous situation. If a new shallow area is reported, but your digital chart isn't updated, or if an officer sets the safety margins too wide just to silence annoying alarms, you are essentially flying blind. Because these stakes are so high, and because, let's be real, computers can naturally lose power or crash, if ECDIS is your primary navigation method, Solus mandates an independent backup arrangement. That means you either need a second standalone ECDIS unit, or you have to keep traditional paper charts handy. You can never have a single point of failure when navigating a massive commercial vessel. All right, so we've seen how ECDS handles your overall navigation and route safety. But what happens when you need localized mechanical data during a really tight maneuver? There is critical information that ECDS deliberately leaves off its screen. When you're navigating a narrow channel or approaching a berth, you need highly specific, real-time feedback from the ship's machinery that a chart simply cannot provide. Enter the conning display. This is the vessel's dedicated dashboard that aggregates critical, real-time mechanical metrics from the engine room to the steering gear, all onto a single standardized screen. Instead of the officer having to physically look around the bridge at 6 different analog gauges to check the rudder angle or the engine RPM, it's all right there in one visual layer. So, put yourself in the officer's shoes for a moment. You are docking in a heavy crosswind, and you've got tugs standing by. Do you focus on ECDIS or the conning display? Every single second matters here, and looking away to hunt for information can lead to costly and, frankly, dangerous mistakes. At that range, you lock eyes on the conning display for instant thrust and steering metrics. While ECDIS guides the broad approach, the conning display handles the precision docking. You are already visually judging your distance to the dock out the window. What you need to know immediately is exactly how your engines and rudder are responding to the wind. Ultimately, both ECDIS and the conning display are essential nodes in the integrated bridge system. This setup allows sensors to talk to each other and provides the crew with total situational awareness. This unified data flow takes the immense complexity of a modern cargo ship and distills it into clear, actionable intelligence for the bridge team. But, this brilliant integration leaves us with a pretty critical question to ponder. When absolutely everything is connected on a single network to maximize efficiency, what happens when that network totally fails? Or worse, what if it's compromised by a cyber attack? The deeper we integrate our bridge systems, the more we have to think about how we navigate when the screens go dark. Keep that in mind as you study these systems, and thank you for joining this explainer.